Okay, welcome back, everyone. I don't even want to look through the archives to see how long it's been, but let's just say it's been too long, and a lot has happened. So, a lot of familiar faces here. We'll just keep the introductions brief because I think with some of the recent developments, there's been some new entrants into the community. So we'll quickly just kind of share who you are, what you're all about, and then we'll jump right into the content. I think, there's a number of different topics that we could be excited about and talking this afternoon. But it seems like the most relevant is the closed testing for FIFA AI League. So I figure we can spend our time talking about that. If we start to get on a tangent, we want to jump into things like void protocols, we can obviously go there too. But the game marches ever closer. So let's start there. Just going around the room, PJGlitch, welcome back.
Thank you. PJGlitch, a big holder of lots of ASM bags, all stars, bosses, primes. I've got the arena behind is the one that I was very fortunate to get from opening my glitch box, hence PJGlitch. And I also partly own Boss, which has an arena with a few community members, and then with one community member, another boss. So yeah, it's I'm heavily, I don't know what the correct phrase is for it, but yeah, heavily invested.
We could
emotionally,
let's just say
mentally, financially.
you've nearly reached full assimilation. How about that?
Yeah, nearly. Yeah.
Awesome. Zapdart, welcome back. Can I still call you a global top 5 ranked AI League player, or has that ship sailed?
No, I hit it hard the first 3 days, and I think I hit number 4 on day 3. But then I was legitimately not working at my actual job, and so I put the kibosh on that. But I had a lot of fun going up the ranks the first few days.
Nice. And I see a pretty cool looking arena behind you.
Yeah,
so
that's the boss. That's the Cthulhu arena. So looking forward to that one.
I'm so glad you said that out loud, because it's one of those things that I just make assumptions on, but it's like croissant. Like I'll just kind of mumble it quickly and quietly and let it kind of pass. So good to know. ACGrizzle, it's great to connect with you. How are you?
I'm doing good. ACGrizzle, I'm a ASM mentor. I have been really excited to play AFA. It's been so long that my excitement has waned, but then AI League has just reignited that, and now I cannot wait to jump into AFA, because AI has it's been too fun. And like Zapdart, my work productivity took a dive, so I have had to take a step back this week.
So there is a day job for you. You're not a full-time DGen. Gotcha. No. Yeah, you're in good company. And well, we're happy to have you. I'm excited to get your perspective. I know you've been heavily involved forever, so it's great to finally have you in here. Genesis Brian, how are you?
Yeah, good to see y'all again.
Yeah.
So I'm Brian.
Yeah, go ahead. Share a little bit about your role at ASM.
Cool. Yeah, I was a longtime community member, and then started working at ASM as community manager in November, right before the World Cup, and have kind of been mostly working on AI League and AFA. So that's kind of been my last few months. It's been crazy, but it's been a lot of fun. It's really awesome to have an app out and working now. Very exciting.
Yeah. Well, congrats to you and the team. It's been a huge accomplishment, long time coming, and as you're starting to hear already, just great reception for the initial reaction. So tip of the hat.
I deserve zero credit. The team that's been building this has been working crazy hours and putting in lots of amazing work, and they deserve all the credit. So props to them.
A fun fact about Genesis Brian is he is actually the #1 ranked most modest ASM team member. So yeah, we're not going to get any praise coming out of you, but thanks for all you do.
Just alpha. Well, that's all we're going to get from Brian. Alpha.
Yeah, that's right. So let's see. There's a number of places that we could start, but who who wants to raise their hand and say like, yes, this felt like Christmas morning when the list went out to become a closed tester? How excited were you guys to get your hands on something playable?
Yeah, I mean, 100%. I've been, said ACGrizzle mentioned earlier, been waiting for AFA for a while, but I think a lot of excitement around FIFA and that name. And I mean, I can just remember my experience in playing kind of the FIFA Ultimate Team, and more so my interest, for those who know, is it's almost like a trading card game, and it was more so you know, the management style. And so I felt like this really kind of dipped in, and yeah, to be honest, I think I downloaded it on a Sunday night at like 10 or 11, and I ended up playing until about 4:30 a.m. that night. So the game was honestly like crack, and so it was kind of way better than I expected. So yeah, obviously not perfect, but yeah, I think I'm happy with kind of the base like mechanics of the game.
Based on your experience of crack, though, yeah.
Correct.
You know, we have everyone in here for a reason, and we needed a professional. So thank you for making sure that we've got the comparison. PJGlitch, how about you? Same thing.
Yeah,
like,
I mean, I well before mint of the boxes, I've been so excited about AFA, and you know, and genuinely sort of patiently waiting and knowing and trusting in the team that the delays for a reason, and they want, you know, they share our view about, they know we want it, but they want to deliver the right product. And when there was an opportunity to be able to be on the alpha list for the FIFA League, I was obviously really keen, even though I didn't have any Android devices. So I thought the sensible idea was to sort of buy the cheapest tablet I could so I could play, which then ended up being a false economy, because apparently Chasing Tail said I bought the Grandma spec, which is what you get your grandma so she can play solitaire, apparently. So I didn't realize this.
Yeah.
So I lost 24 hours watching people playing it and sharing how amazing it was, knowing that I couldn't even load the first screen on it. So I quickly got a better, still not that expensive, but a better tablet so that I could get cracking. And then basically just did the same thing, just kind of couldn't pull myself away from it, and just played and played and played. And then was like, I've just got to stop. So I kind of just would cane. I remember my car was being serviced, and I basically was there for 3.5 hours, just playing like constantly. That's all I did. I didn't do anything else other than play it. And it was good because having that focused time allowed you, because I suppose I'm doing it not only for the enjoyment of it, but also to be able to give like constructive feedback about what I found and what was good, what was bad, and be able to talk to other people outside of the community about their experiences, and then be able to feedback what mine were. So yeah, I've been really excited and very, you know, and pleasantly surprised by, I suppose it sounds stupid, but I'm just amazed that the thing we're playing is just like a game that I would be buying on the App Store and playing myself, as opposed to, oh, I hope they do a good job of it. But it's so much deeper than a game because it's AI, and you know the team, you know what, this is a stepping stone and a proof of concept for other things. But for it to be so much more than that, I was genuinely pleasantly surprised. So
that's awesome.
Really, yeah.
You know, just kind of hearing you share the like unboxing type of experience. If I were you and I were getting a car service or getting my oil changed and like initially playing the game for the first time, I would totally be the person that they would sucker into like every upgrade, every like, you know, synthetic fill in the blank. Like I would come out of there with the mud flaps in my car, and it would be like, yeah, I would spend so much money just not knowing. Like, yeah, that's great. Please do that. And then
just whatever,
totally zoned in. Nice. What about you, ACGrizzle? Are you a longtime Android user and this was an easy transition for you, or did you have to go run to the store to get your hands on it?
No, I ditched my iPhone about 5 years ago, so I've been Android ever since then.
This was a perfect fit for you.
Oh yeah. You know, I grew up on up in like a Macintosh household, and so I remember just being starved for content because all the good games were on the PC,
Yeah.
and going into Software Etc. or Babbage's and just looking at the Mac wall, it was always really just sad. So I was scarred from that. So
Yeah.
when I saw this latest go around for different reasons why people couldn't get it for the iOS, but I understand that pain. And in regards to like the unboxing or feeling like Christmas, I was like low key panicking when I first registered. When I first heard about, I was like, "Well, we can test this." I was like, "No way!" Like, sign up immediately. And I didn't hear anything back, and so I was like nervous. Like, well, did they not get it? So I signed up again, like a second time. Didn't hear anything back. I was just freaking out. And then the day it dropped, I had no email. Again, I was just like, "No, like let me in," type deal.
Yeah. Yeah.
But then someone dropped the link, the Play Store link, and it worked, and I was like, "Oh, thank God." Um, but a quick background, like for me, like gaming wise, like longtime FIFA player, played Madden 2K, and I've always been a fan of like career mode and manager mode, where I would simulate most of the matches. I wouldn't even play most of them, right? So I've always loved that aspect of like building rosters over like long durations. And so I did that for a long time. And once like Rocket League came out, I was like hooked on the gameplay, and like I couldn't play FIFA anymore. So I just been playing Rocket League. And one thing I like about Rocket League is how like that concept of like just one more game, right? Like I got time right now. It's a game, it wouldn't take me 5 6 minutes. I got one more game, right? And you end up playing like another hour. Well, I felt the same thing with AI League. Because a game is like 30 seconds to 90 seconds. So there's
Yeah.
always time for just one more, right? And
Yeah.
so I
Yeah.
got hooked on that. And I think at first I was just simulating too much and not really watching, just 3 times speed, just getting through, just trying to get my stuff through. But then when I started watching the games, it became fascinating. And like I wanted to keep doing one more game to see like, oh, that was a cool move. I can do it again. Or I started to see my forward start to link up a little bit. And I was like, this is interesting. This is new, right? And so like I couldn't put it down. And like that's why like for that first week, I was just consumed, and it was always around me. Any second of a downtime, I was on my phone, booting it up, one more game type deal. So
Yeah.
it's dangerous.
Nice. That's so great to hear. I mean, it seems pretty unanimous that it's like, Ryan's favorite crack. So it's great. I guess one of the things that we kind of just skipped right over, because I think most people that are watching this will be familiar, but Brian, do you want to share a little bit about like the game itself? Like what is it that we're talking about, or does anyone want to take that? Like the nature of the game itself, and then we can go back to kind of what we've been experiencing.
Yeah, and Brian, I can share a couple screenshots while you talk about it.
Oh, cool. Yeah, so the way the game is created is actually pretty interesting. It's like, do you want to pull up some skills, Zap? Like, do you have pictures of the?
Yeah, it says host disabled screen sharing.
Oh yeah, you might just have to allow it, Tanuki, and then.
Yep.
Cool. So we'll probably see here in a minute, but basically like each player on the field has 2 skills, which are actually represent neural networks. So they're basically like very specific AIs trained in that specific skill. And you're taking those 2 skills and you're attaching them to a player who has some fixed attributes. And this will make more sense once we get, yeah, sweet. So you can kind of see here the different players and the attributes. There we go, perfect. And their attributes. So each player comes with this fixed, what it says on here, genome, that'll be changed, but they're just attributes. And those don't change with the game at all. Those will stay the same. And every time you get new all-stars, they'll have a different set of attributes. And so mixing it with the skills which you see on the right, and that's where the AI comes in. And so those skills are pre-trained. And so basically what happens is you train those. Hold on, I pulled something up here because someone from the team wrote a really good description of what happens. So for these skills, they're basically trained to dispatch outputs, which are like decisions to move, pass, or attack. And as that incentive is triggered, the agent is rewarded. So during gameplay, the agent will receive the same observations or inputs and dispatches the same outputs. However, the outputs are refined based on the training. So like, for example, with, let's see,
Is this alpha? I didn't know it worked like that.
oh, he had a really good write-up and I can't find it now. But yeah, basically like during the training, like let's say you chose, which one's the one that you shoot a lot? Is that Golden Boot? Does anyone know?
Golden Boot's kind of long distance, like power kicks. I think there's another one called
Goal Machine. That was it, right?
Goal Machine, yeah.
Goal Machine, I think, is the one where you shoot a lot. So like the example is when that skill is trained, you might, give that agent a point for every time they shoot it, and you might take away a point for every time they're dribbling the ball a lot without taking a shot. So it's basically in the training, it's incentivizing and disincentivizing certain behaviors based on the skill. And each skill will kind of have its own set of that happening in the training. And then you basically can level up those skills. I think right now there's 4 levels, and each level represents, I think, an increased amount of training. So as you level up your skills, you should see your all-stars start to react more. So in the first levels, they're not super reactive, but as you kind of move along the skill levels, you'll start to see some noticeable impacts from those skills, which is pretty cool. So yeah, that's a little complicated, but kind of how it works in a nutshell. And then you can see the skill blender on this page, and you can actually choose how much of a skill you want to incorporate into your stopper. So this player is going to want to stay in the back half of the field and kind of play a more defensive position, but you could slide that slider up to be more of a team player, and then they'll start to pass more. And so you can kind of start to think of different strategies you can use combining these skills that will accomplish a given action, which is kind of the really interesting part, and kind of the basis of the game is trying to blend these skills to come up with unique combinations to get these basically these AI agents to do what you're looking for them to do, which is I talked to some people on the team, and they're not sure that there's ever been something created like this where you're actually blending 2 neural networks to create an output like that. So I think that's pretty cool.
Very cool. Obviously you have kind of the blueprint, and that's really insightful to hear kind of, how it all comes together. What for Zap and ACGrizzle and PJ, what was the like mechanism discovery like for you guys? Do you remember, was it intuitive, or were you like, I have no idea what I'm doing, but I'm going to click these buttons and see what the output is? Like it sounds like ACGrizzle, you just learned something from what Brian was describing. Is that do you feel like you're getting better over time, or are you still kind of swimming in the dark a little bit?
I feel like I'm swimming in the dark, which it's fine. I like experimenting. I did get to a point where I felt like I was just so lost because all I had was assumptions, and pretty much every assumption that I've had so far has been wrong, right? Which is part of the process. Like I'm used to that, right? But it got to a point where it's kind of like, all right, man, I'm out of guesses right now. Like I need something more concrete of like how this works, because like I'm just operating on faith right now that they're actually getting better, or I'm making changes. Because at times it felt like I made 3 teams, and on my second team I felt like I got things perfect and it just clicked, and I felt like I was like master of the world, right? I felt like I was like, oh, you're a tactical genius type deal, right? This is so much fun type deal. And then I started tinkering, got some new players, and what I found out was that like I got lucky. What I thought I was doing, I couldn't replicate it, right? Which is again, like I like experimenting and testing stuff. So like to me that's part of the fun. But hearing what he said about how they're real networks and you're blending them, that made my mind think of new things to try now, new combinations. And so, yeah, you just might have gave me a hit of crack right there, because now now I want to get back into it and start fiddling around again.
Very cool.
Yeah. And I mean, just to jump in here, and so the images that I've been showing here is actually from Super Wilder, who has been regularly sitting atop the leaderboard. And so we've been having conversations like about kind of what he thinks works and whatnot. But just to take a step back, I mean, when I first started, I think my first maybe 40 games or so, I didn't actually have a whole lot of success. Like I was losing maybe like 70% of my games, and obviously that annoyed me. And so what I did is I got as many player packs as I possibly could. I bumped out my Excel spreadsheet, and then I just started basically recording these player genomes, and then just kind of optimizing. So which is the ones that had the most, and just trying to get a good combination of guys with stamina and speed. And so for stamina and speed, I maxed that out on my 2 defenders, because I figured that if they're quite rapid, they'd be able to track kind of anyone else and just have a really good defense, and then kind of pair that with sort of defensive type cards. And then I had one player that had a lot of skill, and so I paired that with a card called the Space Cadet, which is sort of a card that makes you want to go to the open space and getting open. And then another player, which I used to be kind of a support, but he ended up being like my goal scorer, which sort of surprised me. And I think that's the interesting thing, is that the cards that you have and the skill sets, it didn't necessarily go the way that I expected, but sometimes I would just kind of feed what they're doing, and then they would get that much better. And game by game, it's quite interesting. And so like actually Super Wild, this is quite an interesting card right here, because you can see relatively high genomes, but the one that's low is the accuracy. So what he's done here is he's super stopper, he's put 100% on it, but then the accuracy is quite low. But I actually think the accuracy being low, being like a defender, is somewhat to your advantage, because I'll notice a lot of times that like the defenders, they'll just kick it kind of straight to the teammates, and a lot of time like an opponent will sort of like jump in front of them, intercept it, and then score. And so actually, if you have like like an inaccurate goalie, I can see some advantages to that, because you almost want it to be a bit more random, so it's easier to kind of clear it out of the goal. But there's just lots of these little kind of fun insights that you are messing with, and just really what the discovery process is because I'm still not even fully clear, what does stamina do? What does skill do? What does temper do? Like I don't necessarily know, but it's been, fun kind of, I'd say going really into the strategy and learning more about how does this AI work.
I think that's what I think. I remember very early on one of it was probably on one of the AMAs, or maybe on a Spaces or something. David was talking about like one of the early when we're talking about AFA Rod and this version. And he was saying what was interesting is a player that is slow and maybe is strong, they would tend to hold back and form the role of a defender within a team, because that was their natural suiting, whereas someone else might naturally move up to be more of an attacking player. And so and I suppose what the hardest thing, I mean, what's quite good about the way that this game was presented to us was that we weren't given much information, which I think part of that was the fact that the team was probably quite keen to get it out there, because obviously, understandably there'd been delays, and I'm sure they wanted to progress and give the community something to chew on. But also what was quite good was that we were, it was interesting how we were interpreting the information that we got in front of us and what we thought that meant, and therefore what we did with that. But I guess what would the thing that would make a big difference to me is, like Zapdart was saying there, what you kind of wanted to be able to do was to say, okay, I've got this player that's got really high player genome across the different the different attributes, and therefore surely they must be really good. So I'll have a team of those, and I'll use all my coins and my winnings to buy lots of players. So I've got the highest rank, sort of, if you added up at the genomes, assuming that they're all positive, the ones with the highest rank, and that will be my kind of dream team. But what you kind of wanted to do was to say, well, how would that compare to having a team of kind of the savants of they're no good at anything other than skill or speed or accuracy or power, and to try and see but to get that, you kind of need either lots of simulations, or you need kind of a bit of data that you can use to understand and identify what you're seeing. Because, like, I think it was ACGrizzle said, what you're basically doing is, it's great to be simulating the games and to be kind of racking through them and seeing your win rates and moving up the leaderboard. But where you got the real value was when you slowed it down and you kind of like, is my player doing this thing that I want them to? Are they being, as a shot stopper, you want them to hold back, but are they actually doing that? Or are you finding that they'll go up too much? Are they shooting too often because I've got the goal machine, when they shouldn't be, because they're just missing because they're too far away, or they're not in the right position, or a teammate's in a better position? And I guess it's to get that at the moment, you're having to watch the game and you're focusing on one player as well. So you're focusing on Octopus Head and seeing what that person's doing.
Looks
and
rare.
And which is kind of good and bad. And I think that I would say the biggest surprise to me about the game was, you definitely 100%, in my mind, I was invested in my players. I did switch a few out, but I kind of felt a real guilt in getting rid of my boxing mask guy that I had from the beginning and putting in like another guy. And even with the skins, so here obviously Super Wild has got some cool, like the octopus heads and the crown and the samurai guy, which are really cool. But I did switch mine out, but then because in this version, there's no way of naming or assigning a number or any ID to the player. What I was doing, I sort of had orange cap guy who was my striker, but it was then he became night guy because he wore a night helmet. So when I was talking to my kids about what happened to a game, I'd say, so night guy who's orange cap guy, and then it would be blonde Medusa hair that was night guy that was orange cap guy. So I'd constantly bring the player back to what I knew him as when he first joined my team, which is orange cap guy. And I really love that, the fact that it was great to have this skin, and I love the fact that I opened a pack and got a Medusa or got a octopus head. But it's so nice knowing that actually he's come from the humble origins of having his little orange cap, and that's what he'll always be to me. And that's kind of, I didn't expect to have that level of connection, especially because this version of the game is, there's a case of we're grinding, we're just like trying to see what we can learn from the game. And we're not really, we shouldn't necessarily be so overly emotionally involved with the characters, because they're not necessarily able to do what we might want with them in future versions. So that really took me by surprise. And my daughter, I picked my daughter up from school, and because I can't obviously drive and play, and so she would be playing some games. She'd go, "Oh, orange cap guy's just done a really good pass," and then she'd say, "I'm not sure whether we could get rid of blue hair guy. He doesn't seem to be very good. I think that the boxer head guy was doing a lot better before." And having this kind of and being able to give them a name would, like, if it's Bob and Steve and Stan, I think that would be amazing, because then it's like, him and identify him as Bob. Right. Yeah, he got some Medusa hair and he's made it good in the world, but he's still Stan. So sorry,
that's really interesting.
I found quite passionate about that involvement and in the connection with the characters. And it's quite good to think, when you look at Super Wilder's team, assuming that's his top of the league table team, is that his players aren't the highest scoring, the highest ranking, and there's potentially that mix of characters and skills within your team might actually be something very valuable, which would be a great learning.
The connection to an AI agent is really interesting to hear. That it is a bit surprising, although I guess what you're describing is how a meta star is born, right? I mean, Orange Cap guy hopefully one day will get invited to Angel Babies parties, but you know, gotta be a top performer before that starts happening, right?
Yeah, or the other way around. Maybe she'll be kind of like, you know,
yeah,
knocking on that door at Neon City, and he's not available at the moment. If you come back later.
nice. What other surprises?
I want to follow up with what PJ was just talking about as far as like getting attached.
Yeah, I agree.
Because that happened to me a few
It
times.
sounds like AA, doesn't it? Yeah, I was the guy.
Yeah. And it's funny because like I'm also like a coach in real life also, and like the same thing happens where certain players you have an attachment to them, and it'll blind you to another player who's better than them or a better fit because your mind is stuck on the image of what you think they are, other than what they actually are, right? And so I found myself fighting that where I'd like sub a player out with, you know, a higher attribute ranking, and the person with lower ranking is actually performing better, but it's hard for me to make that switch because I'm just like, no, the number is higher. Like I gotta put him this way, right?
They'll
But then
turn it around eventually.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. But then at the same time, like some of the players like who just if they're producing for you, you start to care for them a little bit more, right? And like I start thinking like how is it going to progress going forward because these players, especially more like Apex characters and all these like Web3 avatars, like they're going to have a history to them, right? And so like once you're done with them, or once they move on, right, that story will continue. And so when you have these these like sports AI agents, like I could totally see these things becoming like metastars, assuming like a game becomes popular and that type of deal. But like I could see that happening. And like this is years ago, like back in college, but I remember playing NBA 2K, no, the college basketball game. And you would recruit kids out of high school to come to your school. And it's the same concept, it's just, you know, random generated characters. But like, so you go this recruiting process and you kind of get attached to them. When they finally like, commit to you, you feel like, oh man, I got one, right? And so I'd simulate just like, you know, just 5-10 years of like different seasons. And so it's weird, like certain players end up playing for you and I got attached to them. And you could actually move those players on to NBA 2K. So like I had like a relationship with some of these players for like over like many games like that, right? And so I'm thinking like with like Web3, you can really go into that and really, really in depth. And the idea that one day we'll be able to like talk to our players and conversate them. And I could put you know, Orange Cap guy in the Discord and we can talk to him. You know, like that's what I'm excited
you meant
for.
steal him, poach him.
Yeah. Well, you know, it's so interesting this thread that you're hitting on, AC, because when we talk about Web3 gaming, normally the first thing that's discussed is tokenomics, and then the thing that's discussed is like, is it fun? And we haven't once mentioned any sort of reward system or tokenomics, you know, at all in this conversation. And so what you're describing, I think then you kind of bring that into the fold. You're truly like a sports agent. Like you're literally investing in your agents or players and then determining kind of what their trajectory looks like. So it's going to be fascinating to see it mature.
Yeah, I mean, it really is interesting. I'll just like briefly kind of mirror what both PJ and AC were talking about, in that you do kind of strangely get attached to these characters. And so I'll just flash my team real quick. So like this character right here, don't pay attention to the cards, that's not accurate, but this guy, he kind of wears this like skeleton hat, or like dinosaur hat. But he was playing as my defender. And then this guy here is almost like Goku or whatever. He started scoring all my goals. And but but then I was like, oh, I should put this like I should put that item on them. But then like part of me I couldn't do it. I was like, no, that would then change the identity of my defender. Like I can't like kill my defender. And so like it was very bizarre like thought that I have is like, why do I care about the aesthetic? Like why do I care about I don't know, almost like he has his own like life or force. I just thought it was bizarre that I had that internal feeling.
I think what's good is this is what we thought, you know, if we take it back to ASM and to AFA, this and the All Stars, this is kind of, you know, it's a recurring theme within the AMA and questions around the AMA, especially for me, where it's kind of like, it's not, you know, say if Orange Cap guy was, or, you know, a boss or something like that is a character in AFA that you can play AFA with, you'll be able to play AFA with. Now, let's say he can also play, you know, hockey, and he can also play basketball and things. Then that is your. It's not a case of, I think, like AC was saying, it's not a case of, oh, I love playing AFA and I've got my Orange Cap guy. It's like, Orange Cap guy is my guy. I play, you know, he plays various sports. He's not very good at swimming, but he's amazing at netball. He's good at AFA, and you'll be able to form bonds, not just like from one game to another, but over many seasons. And then he's going to have offspring. I mean, you know, at some point he's going to retire, he's going to settle down, and there's going to be baby Orange Cap guys and gals.
baby Bo Jacksons all over the place.
And then you're going to get, I mean, imagine the connections when you've got two players that you know, two team members, eventually they retire, they hang up their boots, and they, you know, they have little baby flufflets. And those flufflets then start performing on the field. The connection then will be amazing. You're not going to be able to part with those for no amount of Asto.
Yeah, no need to delist. They'll never be listed.
They'll never be listed.
Brian, what about from your end? Are you guys seeing analytics of like the user base and things just jump out immediately as like, wow, we didn't expect that? Or are you like, oh, wow, this is exactly as we had planned it and it's going swimmingly?
I'm not across all of the feedback. The stuff coming in through support is going directly to the team. So I'm just seeing what things in Discord. And some of it is really interesting and stuff that I hadn't thought of, because we had an internal test before this test just to kind of give it one last go before we put it out there. And I think we had a lot of internal feedback that was similar to external, but we are getting some stuff that's really interesting and some really good ideas that I'm not sure that we had thought of originally. So it's been really cool. It's been fun watching it be kind of a collaborative process. It's like we start seeing a lot of the same feedback. We're like, okay, yeah, that's exactly what we're thinking. That's where we're going with this and all that. And we have a roadmap where we're going to be kind of adding things as we go. So a lot of the stuff that people have been requesting will be seen in future iterations. So yeah, it's really cool. It's fun to be a part of.
Another testament
as a plug
to
for that
community.
Yeah, for sure. And as a plug for that, if you played the game and you haven't submitted feedback, please do. We want any and all feedback, good, bad, ugly. Send it all to us. You can go in the app, go to settings, contact us. We want as much as we can possibly get, because that just helps us make a better game. So yeah, quick plug on that. Had to do it.
No, yeah, perfect. What constructive things would you guys share just in your limited experience so far along those lines?
I mean, yeah, I think that for me, it would be nice to know what the actual different attributes do. And so I mentioned kind of earlier, like skill. So I feel like I have an inkling of what skill does, but I'm not totally sure. But then it's the same thing with temper and stamina. And so I just think that yeah, it would be nice to know what those do, and then maybe some additional data, because as ACGrizzle had mentioned, I mean, it does feel a bit like you're just kind of making decisions somewhat in the blind. And so, you know, there's not that feedback there to really optimize and take your strategy to the next level, because it's a little bit of kind of, you know, blind thinking. And then I think the other thing is it's really good, but you know, once you get to the higher levels, and I know the team's heard this, it becomes a bit grindy, because it's not so much representative of skill. And so I think if there is a way to optimize for skill. So it's not about, how many games you play, but it's more about, the teams that are consistently winning on a basis. I think that can really be great. And then when you pair that with some type of, let's say, like status or those badges that you see in the leaderboard, I think that's the recipe to really make it pop, because then you get the status, that badge associated with your ranking, and it's just that addictive to how do I actually increase my skill and beat people to get to that next level, because I want that status, that badge. But I mean, overall, the core mechanics are great, and I just think there's just so many different things the team can do with it. So I'm just excited to see kind of creatively what comes in the future.
That's awesome. What about you, ACGrizzle?
I don't know if anyone's ever gonna tell it. I don't know if anyone's
ahead,
gonna tell you what the attributes are. I think that's part of the fun of it. I think
I saw you smirking.
Every other day, Zap's messaging me like, "What does temper do? What does temper do?"
I saw you smirking,
like,
and I'm like,
I don't know if anyone's
that's
gonna tell
definitely
anyone.
by design. Yeah.
I mean, to be honest, I hope they do at some point, because like, I don't know. From my own standpoint, I personally, I prefer the optimization of the skill more than the discovery. But I guess understand both points, but my own, yeah, I'd rather know. Yeah.
I mean, I'd like to know also, but discovery is also fun. Really, I think the core gameplay, they nailed it. There's not a lot of like game modes, right? It's just the game, and the fact that that's fun to me is always a great sign. Really, I just want to see like small quality of life stuff. Like I want to be able to name my stars, or at least have some type of signifier, so I don't have to call them by their name. I started off saying orange cap guy, but I got over 100 players, and so now it's like orange cap guy, hipster glasses, blue shirt, white shoes with blue trim. Like it got more and more detailed as I started going through. And also too, it's hard to compare players. So I have to do it all on the spreadsheet, and so it'd be nicer to have be able to like look at their attributes, edit the player cards, and compare players one to one in app would be, to me, it'd be a massive unlock.
Yeah, that's
yeah. I think this is what's so difficult is kind of like, what this game is meant to be. Is this game meant to be AFA light? In which case, which I know it is, but how light is it meant to be? And therefore, if the lighter it's got to be, then obviously there's got to be so absorbing and immersive to play, and the play side of it becomes really important. And if it's more kind of like the strategy and the depth of AFA, then potentially, you want stats, and you want to be able to do your own simulations around training, and you want all this comparison tools, which, and I think that's what obviously the team will know, because or have an idea, because they'll have their view on how far down that track AFA, or how extreme AFA is on those things, and where they want this to sit, and what they want this to achieve, and what FIFA, I mean, obviously this is a partnership with FIFA, what FIFA want this game to be. So, but I mean, to me, yeah, kind of some of the similar things to what AC and Zap have said, but I think, you need to be able to, when you're looking at the field, like when you're watching the gameplay, obviously when they start off, they're all just huddled. And part of the reason why I chose some players over others before I found like Medusa hair and stuff was just so I could tell, like, from above, you can only tell their heads, more or less. You can't tell what glasses they're wearing, what shoes they're wearing. So then I had to have a player which had some type of hat, another player without hat, one with hair, one with, and just so I could identify orange cap guy from blue cap guy, from white cap guy, from backwards cap guy. So that is kind of, which makes sense. But, and I know that's, this is alpha at the end of the day, that we're playing an alpha release. But so that's important. But I think things like being able, for me to be able to say, hey, Zach, do you fancy a game? Now you can do that. You can play against another player. But what you're doing is you're playing against their AI model, I guess, that's my assumption, based on, I guess, how far it is trained. But what you're not doing there is being able to share that joy of Zap and I getting on a call like this and going, okay, let's go, and then saying, right, we'll do best of 5 or best of 7 or whatever it is, and then watching our players do it, and then be able to see, look at the strike rate for orange cap guy, and the assists that I got from Medusa Hair, whatever it might be, and being able to kind of share in that social experience of playing, because it's great when I beat Zap, every game I play, but if he's beaten me every game he plays on his, then we're not really, the bragging rights aren't there. So things like that are really good, would be good. But yeah, the stats as well, like having some idea about what's going to happen, and maybe kind of like seasons and cup matches and leagues, and which all these things are probably not new to what they're thinking, because obviously this is an early version, but the basis of the game is brilliant. Obviously it's a bit grindy, but that's just because at the moment the metrics that you're looking at is where am I on the leaderboard, and that won't matter, because what will matter is I just won a cup, or I've just won this league, and that will be a very different. Everyone will be playing the same number of games. The skill will come into it. The players will come into it. So things that are on this version won't really be relevant when we get as the game develops. But at the end of the day, the thing that's good is you want to sit there watching your players. You're not just, it's nice to see the stats, but you actually are wanting to see them pass. You want replays. You want zoom ins, I think, so you can see a goal, you can maybe zoom in and actually see your player and how he passed, and how skillful the other one who appeared, and when they kick it out of the field and then someone runs to the center where the ball is dropped, so they can then score a goal, or your defender hits one from miles out. All those little things you want to see again, but you also want to see, like, I remember, sorry, I'm going off on one, but when we were at South by Southwest, DJ and Trader Girl Erin showed us like we could get a sort of an AR version with an iPad where we could look at characters, and it was great, and you're watching it. But what was really fascinating was when she put the iPad quite close to the players, and you actually got a real close-up of that player, or the ball, and you could you could choose to zoom out, or you could choose to kind of really focus in on getting the characteristics of the play more and the more detail. So things like that would be amazing. But how far do we really want this game to go? There's an argument to say, make it playable, make it really enjoyable, make it a great hit, make it a great advert for AI gaming. But now let's spend all our time on getting AFA out there, because that's going to be the huge hit. That's going to be our all-stars. They'll be playing, they'll be generating these online personas and things like that. So yeah, I think there's so many things the team might want to achieve and the community might want from the game. I like the fact that you don't know what the skills are, because if I played a game of football with Zapdart, or if he was shown like shooting me on Halo or whatever it might be, I'd like to say, well, yeah, his temper's a bit like this, but he's quite skillful, he's accurate, and I'd identify what I think he is as a player by those skills. I wouldn't need to say, if with a skill level above 7, he's competent at shooting his rifle from this distance, and he hits 80% of the time when he does that. I just want to know, the guys. I watched my son play rugby today. The guy who elbowed a teammate in the face because he got annoyed, he's got a temper. That's going to be a 9 or a 10. The guy who then picked up the other guy and said, "Oh, I'm so sorry, I accidentally tripped you up. Are you okay?" While someone else scores a try, he's going to have quite a low temper because he just cares about making sure he's, being a nice boy. Yeah. So that, but this is what's so exciting. This is why I'm sitting here grinning while everyone's talking, because there's so much opportunity within this. And at the end of the day, this is AI. So when a friend of mine did it, he was playing the game. He's like, it's okay. I was like, but each of these genome matrix, that's all individual. This is a neural network that's overlaid. And he's like, well, why don't I know that? Because that would make me far more engaged in knowing what was happening than just, I'm playing and I just won. Oh, I'm playing and I won. And he won't know who ACGrizzle and Zapdart and Genesis Brian and Altered Calm, and he won't know who any of these people are. So there's no joy. There's a joy when you beat someone that and when you keep getting beaten by Tybo, there's like, Tybo's beating me again, Tybo. And that's fun because the community, and that's where we can go in the future. We can have like our own little mini leagues and things like that. So it's endless what this can be, but it's such an amazing first step.
Super exciting to think that you know, we've had this whole conversation and it's all just talking about an alpha. Like the real thing isn't even GA yet. So clearly a solid foundation and exciting to see where it goes. Well, guys, I'm gonna end this chapter here, but obviously it would be fantastic to get together as a group and just talk about, you know, as things progress, what we're seeing, kind of what the community reception is, all that good stuff. But thank you all for your time and your feedback. It's exciting stuff.
Thanks as always.
It was
All right,
fun.
I'll catch
Thank
you guys in the
That was
Discord.
fun.
Thanks for hosting.
So-
Yeah.